Welcome to A Simple Life. Yes, we are working on the deer fencing still. And I want to show you part of what we've gotten done, and then I'll take you down and I'll show you the very end. We just got all the pipes welded down there, and we may be able to start stringing some actual fencing today. So let me show you what we have. We have a double H brace system right here, and there's one right here. And the reason for having two here is I want to put a gate here. I don't need a gate, but I want to put a gate. And the reason I want to put a gate here is our power source is right here. And so I know that the electric company likes to come in and they like to clean up around here. And I eventually want to move these lines underground, which means I'm going to need to have access to this area with an excavator or trencher or something like that. So I need to put a gate here. The other thing is I want to be able to get in here and mow this, even though this isn't technically my land right here. Well, actually, I think I have another 4 or 5 feet, but I want to be able to get in here and kind of mow this area and maintain it, because I'm gonna have gardens on this side. And if I can maintain this, I can keep the blackberry from crawling through and getting into my gardens. That's one of the other reasons for having a gate there. The other thing is I wanted to have a break. This is a really long run here. I think it's about 1,000 feet or so from this post here all the way to the corner of the property where I showed you we were working last week. So 1,000 feet of wire, that's almost 3 rolls. I want to have a break here before I got to the corner. At this corner, and this is right next to Herman's cabin. And so we have a corner here, we have another corner there, a corner down the hill, and it goes all the way to the end, and that's where the gates and stuff will be. I wanted to show you this because we very likely will have some fencing up today, and this is what we've been working on. It's been a lot of work. I've had to learn to stick weld. This material specifically is interesting because this is field pipe, oil field pipe, and so some of it's magnetized. Some of it has plastic lining in it, so welding it is interesting. Also, you're not welding it on the flat, you're welding uphill, downhill, underneath. So not all my welds are clean, but I'll tell you right now, all the welds are deep and I have good penetration. So that's worked out really well, doing the stick welding. Now down at the corner where we were working yesterday, we were not able to use the stick welder because I didn't have a generator that I could get down there. We've been using a generator that we pull, has lights on it, like the ones you see behind a construction crew or something like that. We have one of those, and we've been able to pull it to any of the little places we needed it. But that corner down there is just way too steep. We did a little test pull this a little bit on a hill where we knew we could get it out, and the quad was not gonna have any of it. And so instead of trying to get this stuck and needing to pull it and rough it up, trying to get it out, I didn't want to mess with that. All right, let's get down there. I can hear the boys, they're down there playing, and we'll go down there. I'll show you what we have to do, because we're gonna have to take this post. It got hit by a tree perfectly, right? Like literally the tree fell and hit this post perfectly and drove it a foot into the ground. So instead of having a 7-foot tall post, I have a 6-foot tall post. And so we're gonna have to pull it out and reset it, you know, life. Okay, I'm down where that post got hit by the tree, and this is seriously, I mean, we're talking the chances of this happening. Wait until I show you what happened, because it's seriously silly. All right, so this is the post, and it's supposed to be 7 feet tall, and it is not 7 feet tall. It's way closer to 6 foot. And as you can see, that's the tree that hit it. Now, what you can't tell is the bottom of that tree is 3 foot round, okay? Or maybe 2.5, 3, right in that range. So it came down and it hit that stump right there. When it hit the stump, it also hit this. And it didn't just hit this a little. Like, it drove the wood right into this hole, like completely into this hole, to the point where it actually took a section, about a 2.5, 3-inch section out of the top of this tree before it shattered. So the good part is we didn't have any fencing up, and obviously this tree had gotten blown down in a storm. I'm gonna pull this post out of the ground completely and reset it, move it over a couple inches. It's not gonna affect anything to move it over a couple inches. And that'll get us back to having a 7-foot tall post. Now, why am I doing 7 feet tall instead of 8 feet? I know some people are like, hey, you have to do 8 foot. You have to remember, we are in Oregon. And this portion of Oregon, the deer are much smaller than what you have in the Midwest, okay? The other thing is, if you look, this whole hillside around, everywhere I'm putting the fencing is basically on a hillside, which means the deer are gonna have to jump uphill over my fence. And that's just not gonna happen because of the fact that they are already gonna be taking off a foot or more below my fencing before they really get to jump over. Now, that's not true at the top where the garden is. And if we have an issue, I'll go in and I'll put an extension and I'll extend up another 6 to 8 inches a foot with high tensile wire. I'm perfectly comfortable doing that if I need to do it in a couple small sections. Everywhere else I'm putting the fencing is gonna be set up like I'm describing, where the deer will be coming in from the downhill side. Okay, I got the Mini X down there. I got the chain hooked up to it and I got the barbed wire disconnected from it. So basically what I end up doing is I take the chain and I throw some hitches on the pipe. And then on one side I connect and I go up to the top. The reason for doing that is if I try to grab it and slide up, I end up doing a lot of damage to the pipes. I haven't done that to these, but I've done it to other pipes that I was just removing. And the chain, basically, like a Chinese finger trap down here, as the chain gets pulled up, it gets tighter and tighter against the metal. And just that friction right there pretty much allows me to pull it out. So we'll see if this one comes out as easy. Got the barbed wire disconnected. Once I get this out of the ground, we'll press it back in and I'll clean up this area. The boys are bringing me my chainsaws so we can get this tree and everything cleaned up. As you saw in the time lapse, when I cut the logs down, I managed to hit the one post 2 times. I wasn't trying to hit it. I was actually trying to split the log so it would roll one way and then the other. And it just didn't manage to do that because it's rolling downhill. It hit stuff. It got turned. So the cool part is these pipes are really thick. They're about 1/4 of an inch thick. Each pipe is about 60 pounds or so. They're 10 feet long. They're oil-filled pipes. They're actually used for drilling oil wells. They've been cut down, obviously, to 10 feet. So I'm going to pull this one up and we're going to move it over a couple feet and I'm going to put it back in the ground. I'm going to show you how we do it, how we did all these, except for the ones that we were able to press in, like I showed you earlier with the excavator. Obviously, I'm not driving the excavator down here. I was able to do it down there, but this is way steeper, more rugged, and I really don't want to get my excavator stuck down here. Over there, we were more on like a 30-degree angle. This is more like a 45 right here going up this hill. And so I'm just not gonna, it's not worth it. I have a machine, I'll show you in a second, that will pound this in. It takes a little bit longer, it's a little slower. There's nothing I can do about that. It's the best I got for being able to do these remote. The good part is I only need to put in, for these big posts, I only need to put in about maybe 30 of them that are kind of remote where I can't get my excavator in there. Maybe less than that, maybe it's 20. And then the T-post, this will do great on the T-post. So this is great for the T-post. It saves your shoulders. But for these bigger pipes, you're gonna see it's a really slow process, and I'll speed up through it. It's also noisy. So we all use ear protection. So just to let you know, that's why we have earbuds in our ears. Move the end of the ladder that way a little. Hold it, just hold it. Ready, Clint? I'm going to hand this to you. All right, that is how we do that. And as you can see, this is about 7 feet in the ground. It's actually 7 foot 1 inch, and that's good enough for me. And it's level, and once I reattach my barbed wire will tighten back up. The barbed wire will also get tighter as I put my T-post in. Now, why don't I have my T-post in? Most people would put their T-post in before they would get the fencing in. Well, here's the reason I'm not doing it. Because of the way we're pulling our fencing into this area, there's gonna be some movement to that whole process. And what I don't want is I don't want my fencing getting caught up on my T-post, because that's gonna cause some real headaches for us if that happens. And so we basically kind of get one try at doing this whole process with the rolls of fencing. And when I say one try, I'll show you. So the reason I say we have one try getting our fencing in here is because we have a logging cable in here. It's right here, I'll show it to you. And this cable is about 3/4 of an inch thick or so. And it weighs a lot, like close to 1,000 pounds. It's about 1,000 feet long, give or take a few feet. It was left here by my loggers. They left it on purpose. They asked me if I wanted it. They were gonna scrap it. And I said, yeah, I'll find some uses for it. It's kind of one of those extreme things that, like, how often do you need a 1,000 foot long, 3/4 of an inch thick cable? Well, this is one of those. Now, it's probably a little overkill. I probably could have used something a little thinner. I just didn't have anything a little thinner. Well, I do, but it's not 1,000 feet long, and we needed something close to 1,000 feet long. And so this cable goes all the way down there. So we have about 400, call it 500 feet or so between here and where it's nice and level up there. That is almost 2 rolls of fencing. Now, I need to be able to pull all that fencing all the way through here because I can't unroll it. As you can see, this is way too steep, it's too rugged. It would be a nightmare. Those rolls of fencing weigh about 300 pounds, and me and the boys are just not gonna be able to roll those through here and do anything meaningful without just beating ourselves up. So what we did is we did one day, and we beat ourselves up, and we used a quad and some little tricks to get the cable run all the way up to the main logging road. And I'll show you kind of where that goes, and you'll see this process as we do it. And it comes down a road or a path I cut, and it comes along the fence, and it comes out over there. And what will happen is we will pull that fencing all the way up down here with the logging cable. All right, so this is the pipe I made, and you can see on that end there's a little flat spot, and that's so that way the wire won't slide off as we're pulling it. In the middle I have a D-ring, and yes, it's welded. It's not the prettiest, but it's gonna hold. And at the other end, there's nothing. The whole idea is this is what will be pulled through the woods by the logging cable. How is this gonna work? Let me show you. And we're all done. Each one of these has the wire going around the pipe and then crimped. And so I did that all the way down the whole entire thing. Now we are ready to hook the cable to this tool I have here. And once that's done, we may actually be able to start pulling. All right, it's the next day. We have everything hooked up. As you can see, this is hooked up. This is actually attached back to my pickup truck. And I have a piece of rope right here. The reason for that is this is less likely to catch on here and cause any damage to the high tensile wire, where the chain has possibilities of that. The other thing is Clay is gonna be down here, right over there, eating his banana. And just like a good minion should. And Clint is gonna be up there without a banana because he's a bad minion. And he's gonna be driving down this way. And up there at the top, we actually have a stump, and that stump, we have a choker around it with a block. So there's a block up there and there's a block down there. And what'll happen is Clint will drive down this road, and when he gets about here, he's gonna stop. We're going to disconnect the cable from the excavator. I have a shorter piece of cable, and what we'll do is we'll go back up and we'll reset. And the way we're gonna reset is I put, it's kind of like a hitch, but I use cable for it. It's not quite a hitch, but it's kind of a hitch. And I wrap the cable around about 5 times, and then I come back through it. And then when we pull, it actually just grabs, that friction grabs that cable and will allow us to pull that cable back down. And that'll allow us to pull in half the distance. By the way, we're going downhill with the excavator, so that's actually helping. It's making the job really easy on the excavator. We're using gravity to our advantage, and that means we can pull multiple times through here to get from right here where I'm standing all the way down there with the fencing. Okay, so let's try this right now. Clint, you go up and you start rolling down. I'm gonna be right here. Clay's gonna be here, and I'm gonna walk with this and escort it. All right, Clint, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Clay can't hear me because I had him mute his phone, so we didn't get feedback. All right, let's get this thing started. Let me get an earbud in so I'm hands-free. Start pulling, buddy. Real slow. We reset it. Wait, stop. Back up. Okay, we've reset the situation. What we have is a piece of pond liner, which is like a nice 1 mil thick material, and it's laying underneath the fencing. The reason for doing that is I really don't want to be just digging a hole with the fencing as it unrolls. And we have attached it to the truck. We're going to try this and see if it holds. Obviously we're on a slant here, so I'm trying to keep the fencing from slowly sliding downhill. We're going to just keep an eye on that and try it. This is completely not a ideal circumstance. If this does not work, I have plan B, well, plan C. That's to take one of the 10-foot fencing pipes and put it through the middle, and then put a chain on either end, pick it up with the excavator, and then we'll use my pickup truck to go up and down the hill, pulling the cable. That's plan C. But let's see if this will work. If this doesn't work, then we'll switch over to that. Whoa! All right, this is the new setup. So what we have is we have a little hitch right here with the chain. It goes up to another hitch with the chain. It goes up to the bucket. The reason why the bucket's rolled out like this is so that way these chains get pushed up against this, and it keeps the whole thing from wanting to do this. I have the same setup on the other side, and then over here I have some straps. The reason I did a rope here is that this is a little open and it wasn't connecting correctly. And so this just pulls back, so that way this whole thing is under tension going backwards as well. So that way as it's pulled forward, we're not gonna get a bunch of swaying back and forth. I'm trying to avoid the swaying back and forth. So that's plan C. Let's see how it goes. Clint's up at the top with my pickup truck, and he's going to coast his way down the hill, hopefully. Very slowly. I'm hoping for no whiskey throttles. You know what a whiskey throttle is? It's pedal to the metal. So, all right, let's see how this works. This has got to be one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. When it comes to just pure walking up and down, back and forth, trying to get everything balanced, keeping it moving without destroying my fence. We've had one little snafu, got some little bends and kinks in the bottom section. It got caught on some branches. You probably saw I went and got my saw and cut those little branches off. They were actually on the other side of the fence line, but the fence was kind of sagging downhill a little right there, and it caught. So a couple feet, I can probably straighten most of that out. I'm not gonna really worry about it once we tighten the fence off, so I think it'll work out. All right, we are gonna go hook up another roll. We actually have a full 300 feet of wire out. I know, amazing. So I'll show you what we got done. We have our T-post up all the way up to this point. And as you can see, they're about 7 feet tall, a little bit more than 7 feet tall. And they go all the way down here. Now we are working on this section. We're gonna go from here all the way up to the pond. We're gonna skip the area next to the pond, and then we're gonna do the rest of it after the pond. The reason we're gonna skip putting the T-post in right there next to the pond is because when I unroll the rest of this wire that I have on that spool, it's going to make it difficult to get the mini X through there. And I'll show you how we're gonna do the unrolling of the rest of the wire, because it actually works pretty cool and way better than the other process I had, and maybe even good enough to use it in the future instead of using the technique I used for doing this. Okay, the boys are doing some cleanup. We had a little bit of wind that blew some trash around, so they're cleaning that up right now. And I'm gonna start getting these T-posts in, and I'll show you the process and show you kind of how this looks. And it's actually quite quick, and the boys help me, they're really helpful. All right, let's get some work done. All right, well, I lost my helper. Actually, I lost both my helpers. We had an incident. When I was putting that post in, Clay misunderstood my instructions of pick up any of the loose plastic that had got blown around, and he tried to get a piece of plastic out of the pond and fell in. And so when I turned the driver off, I heard him yell for help. We ran up and I fished him out. And I'd already given the boys a talking to about like not going near the pond, not playing, not trying to reach into the pond, that you can't get out because it's wet plastic. You just can't climb out. So Clay's okay, he's perfectly fine. He's going home. Mom's making him hot chocolate and has already put some clothes in the dryer for him, so he'll have nice warm clothes to warm up. And I believe they're gonna come back up. At least Clint's gonna come back up. Clay may take a break for the rest of the day. Poor guy. Hey, he can doggy paddle, we know that, so he's doing good on that front. Overall, it's looking really, really good. I'll show you how we dealt with tensioning this. How did we do this? It was really easy, and it came back to how we actually pulled the wire through the woods. Pretty easy system. Took a few minutes to set up, but now I'm using the little mini X to tension this, and I'm being very, very careful with it because it's very easy to pull so much tension that you end up ripping the fence up or ripping the fence out or really doing damage to your fence. So we use that pipe that I attached the little D-ring to. We use that, and then we just did little easy fencing knots all the way down on all 13 wires. And then I had Clint slowly moving back an inch or two at a time. That was key. Very small, tiny movements. Because what I didn't want, and what we were looking for, is I was on the other end, and I was looking for the fence not to move. If the fence wasn't moving, it meant it got caught on something in between. And Clint was looking for the fence to be really taut, way tauter than we would actually want it to. So we were communicating on the phone doing that. We have the fence stood up. It is not hung. We still have plenty of bits that are just sitting here, standing up. What I've done is I've actually started dealing with the majority of the hard stuff to hang is down here in this ravine. So what I did was we started down at the bottom of the ravine where we need to basically really pull the wire. We stood on it basically to get it to the bottom, and then we're working our way away from that. Now, we did have to, or we didn't have to, but we used the T-post to slowly lower the wire, and so it wasn't as hard. Still a lot of work, but it wasn't as hard. And then we have a lot of stuff like this where I've just basically put a miniature clip on here, and you can see that little miniature clip I have actually got pulled this way because of all the tension we're putting down there, which is why I didn't put in permanent clips. Because I had a feeling that as I did this, we were going to have some stuff being pulled in one way or the other. So let me release this right now. I'm not sure how this is going to go. Okay, not that bad. So what we'll do is I'll stand this back up right now, and we'll walk down and see what the other ones look like, because there's multiple places where I put like these little, they're just soft wire, you know, that I bent just to hold the fencing up against the post. All right, so the first 900 feet, 1,000 feet or so wire, something like that, is up. We have everything pretty much attached. And when I say pretty much attached, I don't have all the T-post clips. Those are the little, I'll show you if you're not familiar with them. I don't have all of these attached. I have about half of them up, and I'm also going through and I'm connecting the fencing to the actual posts themselves. I'm using soft wire for that, and basically it just comes through, and I use my fencing pliers and I twist it and it snaps off. And these are really tight. This is not going anywhere. Those aren't moving. I'm putting 3 or 4 of those on each of the posts as we go, about every 2 feet or so, give or take a few inches. And so it's looking really good. Let me show you. There's been a few little hiccups. I'll show you what those are. They're basically in the bottom of the ravines. At the bottom of the ravines, there's a little bit of just a little bit of extra material up here, and I'm going to deal with that using some high tensile wire and some gripples. Gripples are what we use for hanging any of our high tensile wire. Some people like them, some people hate them. Around here, I've seen a lot of vineyards use them. I know a neighbor who's used them for years, and he's never had any problem with them. So we're using them. And so there's a couple spots that we're going to be using those, but for the most part, as you can see, it's dead straight. I mean, we're talking, it may vary, you know, a few inches here and there, but overall it is dead straight down the property line. Now, once again, I've said this isn't actually the property line. I think it's back about, I think we're within our property by about 3 or 4 feet, maybe 5 feet. I did that kind of on purpose. One reason for doing it is I wanted to be able to come along the outside and keep the brush back without crossing the property line. The other thing is I didn't have a surveyor out, so I'd rather be on my side than on the other side. All right, well, this is a wrap for this portion of this project. We are gonna be getting down and building that pig pasture that I've talked about. That's why we did this first, is so we can get the pig pasture in. And so once we get that laid out, and I'll show you what that looks like, and then we will take Frankie and introduce him to his new area. But that will probably be next week or the following week, depending on what the weather's like. As you can see, we're having some wind come in. And so we'll probably get some rain over the next couple days. I haven't looked at the weather, but it feels like it. So anyways, thank you guys so much for joining us on A Simple Life, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.